Hi guys, Dane here, and today I'm going to be doing a review of Latvia 100 Snapshot Stories by the Latvian Institute. So this is part of my Latvian Literature Week, which is running all week this week. And I will be honest, right on the back we have down here, not for sale. Let me show you that. Okay, it's not letting me show you that, but whatever. So I believe you can probably get a copy of it if you ask. So it does say, for further information, please contact the Latvian Embassy or consulate in your country. Or you can get in touch with them in Latvia as well. And they are on Facebook and Twitter and have a website. So I was actually given a copy of this, and it's so interesting that I wanted to review it. So I'm going to say first, it's actually a shame it's not for sale. This should almost be published. Well, I think it should. It should be published like by Lonely Planet or somebody like that, you know, one of the travel book publishers, and made available for general release, because it's a fascinating little insight into what makes the country and the various customs and all this kind of thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to go through and I'm going to share some of them with you as well. So maybe I'll read this first. This is the introduction, because there isn't a blurb, and I normally read the blurb. So this is the introduction, and it says, Latvia celebrates 100 years, 2018. This is your personal invitation to a cultural adventure of Latvia, a country in Northern Europe by the Baltic Sea, celebrating its centenary of statehood in 2018. 100 years, 100 stories, snapshots of the codes of our consciousness, values and virtues, a glimpse at both the changeable and the constant Latvia, a reflection of the zeitgeist. Just like any other nation, we have our unforgettable experiences and past traumas, which we strive to overcome. Big and small victories that keep inspiring us and keep reminding us of the things worth fighting for. Special people and landmarks as important symbols, telling the story of who we are, our weaknesses and strengths, and our future ambitions. The ingredients that make a nation are often the same, but their endless combinations are what make each and every nation unique and beautiful. Just like in the story about Latgalian poetry, we are all different, yet made of the same substance. Let us explore, inspire, support and celebrate each other, because we are all connected. We are all one. The one thing I do want to say before we really get into it is just how beautiful this book is. I mean, it's illustrated throughout. Each of the different sections has a different colour as well. So, for example, white, and let me see what they say. Yeah, so white, the birth, sense, singing, does size matter? So let's start by talking about the Danes. So Latvian folk songs, or Danes, form one of the largest collections of versified folk heritage in the world. They are the collected wisdom and worldview of the Latvian people, encoded into 1.2 4 to 6 line verses. Each verse contains rhyme, rhythm, poetry, metaphor and a narrative. They describe the ritual markers of an entire human life, as well as advice on how to live it well, and the seasonal cycle of the natural world in great detail. A complex mythological world, detailed accounts of the working life and social customs is set out as though it is in the best history book, yet written in poetry. Keeping the form intact, it is clear there are influences that have evolved from many literary and historical periods over the centuries. The use of the diminutive form is a core element, making the Danes almost impossible to successfully translate into any other language. Due to their extreme compactness, around 100 characters, we like to think we were the forefathers of microblogging. This is interesting. I'm not going to read them all out to you, but these are the signs and symbols that are commonly found. And so, for example, number 5 was on the floor of the Latvian library, and this is the Thunder Cross, symbol of light, fire and life, attracts happiness and strength, ensures a good relationship with the forces of fire. And you do see these symbols all around. It's fascinating to find them. There is a lot of, you would almost call it sort of new age stuff, I suppose, in terms of what they believe, because they're very close to nature as a country. So, for example, ley lines here. Indeed, it is the stuff of fairy tales about magical streams and crisscrossed force fields deep below the surface. However, many Latvian architects still check the ley lines before signing off on the plans of a house. 2 to 3 meters apart, intersecting at right angles, this network of mystical subterranean water energy lines was known to other northern European peoples too. A well dug on a cross point was thought to have healing properties, but an oak tree there would attract lightning. How can one tell their influence? An instant cure for insomnia by moving the bed off a ley line. A line of trees in a forest coincidentally growing in a straight line. The dog or cat choosing an unusual place as a favourite napping spot. Checking of ley lines is a job for a specialist, but often country folk do it themselves with a ring or a sewing needle. We believe better safe than sorry. And fun fact, the pyramid stage at Glastonbury is on a ley line as well. So woods here, and we have this phenomenal photo there. We live in one of the rare countries where half of the territory is wooded. Any place is no more than 30 minutes away from a natural forest. Apart from being the habitat of numerous species of animals, birds and other living creatures, the forest is the place to recharge our spiritual batteries. Orienteering, not surprisingly, is among the most popular sports in Latvia. Wood, being not only the quintessence of coziness and a building material, a source of energy and decor, also has a symbolic value. The oak is the manifestation of masculine energy, while the linden the feminine. As you travel through the countryside, you will notice a huge tree standing in the middle of a field here and there. It provides a refuge for birds and shade for livestock, as well as adds harmony to the landscape, a vertical accent in an otherwise horizontal field. Wood is our thing, and modern designers embrace it in watches, spectacle frames, lamps, smartphone cases, toys, and even bicycle frames. My camera battery died, but we're just gonna assume, we're gonna act as though the angle of the shot hasn't changed and everything. So what's next? Anyway, okay, so the flower wreath. Let's have a look at the flower wreath. So let me sit here so you can see. Plaited into a circle, the simplest and most perfect of shapes, with a nod to the sun, flower wreaths were used as decoration from the beginnings of time. Whilst elsewhere, with the growth of politics and states, crowns developed into symbols of power with precious metals and jewels, Latvians to this very day never stopped wearing their flower wreaths, mainly at midsummer. Women and children scour the meadows for plants, flowers and herbs known for their healing properties or other qualities. A day spent with hands green and sticky from sap, breathing the pungent, dizzying plant aromas and vapours with bees hovering around your head, is a very powerful kind of grounding ritual performed without much thinking, with great delight since ancient times. For men, the choice is limited to oak leaf wreaths made for them by the women of the household. In folklore, a wreath or a crown worn by an unmarried woman was the mark of maidenhood. Taking off the crown denoted getting married. I don't know where I'm going to actually properly sit so you can see what I'm doing here, but never mind. There's rye bread as well, so I actually tried some rye bread while I was there, and it says here, even for urban folk having lunch in a restaurant, rye bread is a ritual trigger that elicits an unconscious reverence for the hard work of the farmer, the woman, usually, who kneaded the dough and recited grace as she was doing it, and the presence of continuity by dint of the small knob of dough that is always left in the mixing trough as a starter for the next loaf. Traditionally, the master of the house would be the one who would cut the first slice. If you inadvertently drop a slice of bread, you kiss it after picking it up. I'm going to read you a little bit here because this is about the language, and we are bookish folk, so we enjoy things about language. So this is about the Latvian language. Latvian is one of Europe's oldest languages. Spoken by about 2 million people, it is one of the 2 remaining languages on the Baltic branch of Indo-European languages, the other being Lithuanian, which has retained a remarkably archaic form, similar in age to Sanskrit. Although related, Latvians and Lithuanians cannot freely understand each other. Finno-Ugric, Estonian and Liv, though not related to Latvian at all, have left their mark by the stress on all Latvian words being on the first syllable. Phonetic spelling requires us to write what we hear, therefore foreign names are modified to conform. For example, John Smith is written as John Smith, I guess, because it's phonetic, but spelled D-Z-O-N-S-S-M-I-T-S. We know it is confusing, therefore we try to put the original in brackets. Tilde, a Latvian IT company and cultivator of the Latvian language, is well known in the region as the best developer and pioneer of machine translation solutions and speech technologies tailored specifically for small European languages for digital applications. Then we have a bit about the diminutive. In English, what is left of the diminutive, example horsey, froggy, kitty, is used primarily for cuteness and kiddie speak. We, on the other hand, use it often as a rich and refined tool to change tonality, to express tenderness, familiarity or irony, to ridicule or to belittle. Think of it as a button you can press to go into the poetical realm, to vibrate at a higher frequency or wrap an unremarkable everyday object in a warm and loving embrace. Sadly, this fundamental aspect of our language is practically impossible to translate, so you'll have to take our word for it. Which I just find fascinating. We have a chapter here which is called Smuki or Pretty, and it says, "We want things to be smuki, neatly nice, from the way the glasses are arranged on a buffet table, the layout of an official document or a grave site waiting for mourners. The quality, content or purpose of a thing is often secondary to a craving for the thing to look smuki." Again, I apologise for pronunciation throughout these videos because some of these words are hard to pronounce, but I want to talk about the Satzversm. And it says, our constitution, the Satsversum, was adopted on the 15th of February 1922 and is one of the oldest still functioning republican constitutions in Europe, as well as one of the shortest. It has 3,645 words, compared to the 23,136 words in the Basic Law of Germany and 146,385 words in the Constitution of India. Guided by the best models of the time, it enshrines the principles of a parliamentary democracy and states that sovereignty is vested in the people of Latvia. It was among the first constitutions in Europe granting women equal rights to vote. The body of the document is concise and clear, a practical framework for a modern democracy. Amendments have included the establishment of a constitutional court and fundamental human rights, as well as the preamble of 2014 describing Latvia's historical perspective and less tangible notions like values and Latvian life wisdom. The Satsversum has functioned well in the past, continues to do so, and sits well within the spirit and principles of the European Union. I'll give a mention here to the War of Independence as well, because this was quite an important part of Latvian history. Basically, when they established themselves as an independent country, they faced Germany on one side and Russia on the other side, and they had to fight for their independence. So it says here, the Republic of Latvia could not sit back and enjoy its newly gained freedom, as only a few weeks after its proclamation, the new state was invaded by Soviet Russia in circumstances when the Latvian army was only in the process of formation. The subsequent Latvian War of Independence involved fighting various enemies: the German Iron Division, the Red Army, and the German-Russian armed forces known as the Berman-Avalov Army. Events took various twists, and allies changed, so sadly there were battles where Latvians fought against Latvians, being recruited by the invading armies. Crucial victory came on 11th of November 1919, when the Latvian army, 15-year-old boys fighting alongside experienced men, defended Riga by defeating the Berman-Avalov forces. Since then, this date of victory bears the name of Lasplasis, Bear Slayer, a great literary heroic character. The war, which lasted 628 days, in which 75 battles were fought, officially ended on the 11th of August 1920 with a Latvian-Soviet peace treaty in which the Soviet Russia recognised the independence of Latvia. And then during the Second World War, Latvia was invaded by the Soviets and then the Russians and then the Soviets again, and ended up under Soviet oppression. But there was, a defence against that. So this is the Forest brothers here. At the end of World War II, after pushing the Nazi army out of the territory of Latvia, the Soviet army occupied the country. Many locals, soldiers of both Russian and German armies, and those on lists for arrest or deportation, took to the forests. Awaiting the promised support from the West, they continued a partisan war against the Soviets. Throughout the country, 20,000 Forest brothers, many of them young boys, lived in small groups in dugouts with weapon workshops and printing presses for leaflets, and carried out some 3,000 raids, inflicting damage on the Soviet military, its officials, buildings and ammunition depots. They worked to disrupt the new regime's elections and incited the civilian population to continue resistance. But thanks to double agents like the British MI6 officer Kim Philby, most agents sent in by the British, American and Swedish secret services from 1945 to 1954 were arrested. As the Soviets consolidated their rule, help from civilians to the partisans decreased. Gradually, the Forest brothers were either killed or infiltrated. The last groups emerged from the forest and surrendered to the authorities in 1957. And then, obviously, towards the end of the late 80s and the early 90s, Latvia kind of started to re-establish its independence as well. So we have here the Baltic Way, and this is fascinating, this bit. In a peaceful mass demonstration on 23rd of August 1989, 2 million people joined hands to form a human chain spanning 676 kilometres across Estonia, Latvia and Lithuania. The greatest flash mob in the history of the Baltics, and I would say arguably in the world, happened under press censorship with no mobile phones or the internet, just the radio as the medium. It has been described as one of the most effective political publicity campaigns ever mounted because of its emotionally captivating and visually powerful imagery. Organised by Baltic pro-independence movements, Rahavrin of Estonia, Tautas Front of Latvia and Sejudis of Lithuania, it condemned the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact, which divided Europe into spheres of influence and led to the occupation of the Baltic countries in 1940. Drawing global attention by demonstrating a popular desire for independence, it allowed the organisers to position the question of Baltic independence not as a political matter, but as a moral issue. A logistical miracle and an impressive solidarity among the three nations, it is included in the UNESCO Memory of the World Register. So this is the title of one of the chapters, and this is the chapter about scents, and it says, "Talking about Latvian aromas is not quite the same as sniffing them and subconsciously connecting to their triggers, so we want you to go and find them. A summer salad of tomatoes, cucumber, sour cream and dill, damp woolen mittens after a day out in the snow, freshly baked bacon rolls, a room full of just picked apples, freshly dug earth in the spring, a mix of scents at the Railway Museum, opening a book from the 1930s, bunches of sweet pea blossoms at the Vidzemes market in Riga, incense in a Russian Orthodox church in Latgali. Share your aromatic adventures in Latvia with us. Tag if you like Latvia, Latvia likes you in Facebook with hashtag Sense of Latvia." I think this is great because this reflects the country as it's a very green country, very connected with nature. So this is called the Torka. The Torka, or joint work, is a concept which captures the power of people coming together on a voluntary basis to accomplish some big task. In the countryside, it was the only way to do things. Gathering hay at the end of the summer, digging up potato crops in autumn before the rain sets in, or building a new shed for the animals. After a job well done, the hosts would treat their helpers to a sturdy meal and a few beers, and you would have all the elements for a good party to finish off. Today, the Lila Torka, big cleanup, is the largest voluntary countrywide movement, every April gathering about 200,000 people joining forces to clean up littered forests, improve a neglected urban space or living conditions for shelter animals. The event is underpinned with carefully designed logistics for disposal and monitoring, which has become a know-how product itself, exported to other countries. Inspired by the Torka movement of the three Baltic countries, naturally we will take part in the global Let's Do It campaign on September 15, 2018, sending a message to politicians that we want the world to be a cleaner and greener place. And actually, that 200,000 people, that's 10% of the country's population there. Okay, so we have basketball, and this is, I guess, for my American viewers, because I didn't know who this guy was, but I don't do basketball. So it says, Kristaps Porzingis, the center player of the New York Knicks, is probably the most famous Latvian today to the general public in the USA. But there are many others whose achievements have made us proud. We really like the story of how, against all odds, the Latvian basketball team won the European Basketball Championship in 1935, a classic underdog achievement that was made into a feature film, Dream Team 1935, in 2012. After World War II, Latvians played for high-ranking teams in Paris, the USA and Australia. Our all-time star player for the legendary TTT Riga women's basketball team, Uljana Semjonova, was the first non-US female player enshrined into the Basketball Hall of Fame in 1993, also in the FIBA Hall of Fame in 2007. 10 years later, in 2017, she was followed by Valdis Valters, a legendary player and basketball coach. One other thing to mention, which we heard a lot about, everyone's quite excited about it, because obviously it's the centenary year this year as well, so they're doing a big version of it, but that's the Song and Dance celebration. So it says, "Once in 5 years, we become the largest choir in the world. Dating back to 1873, the Latvian Song and Dance Celebration is the grandest festival in the Baltics in terms of scope, authenticity and style. In the beginning of July, Riga becomes a buzzing stage for 20,000 folk and choir singers and 15,000 dancers, young and old, dressed in folk costumes, living the tradition. No wonder it has been included in the UNESCO list of intangible cultural heritage. One of the highlights of the festival is all participants dressed in folk costumes, striding through the centre of Riga in a 5-hour parade, cheered by spectator crowds lined along the route. If you are really lucky, you might even get tickets to the gala concert at the Metza Park's open air amphitheatre, which is undergoing major redesigning works for the 2018 celebration to host 11,000 singers and 35,000 visitors. Fun fact about this, which isn't so fun for the people involved, but the ticketing website did a really bad job of things, and basically people were really struggling to get the tickets because it kept crashing. It was like trying to get tickets for Glastonbury. So you would have to be really lucky to be able to go. We've got here Love of Books, and it says 2,000 books were passed on from the old library building to the new one during the 5-hour and 2.014 kilometre route on 14th of January 2014. So Becoming a book-loving nation, we were very excited by the imminent completion of the new National Library on the bank of the Daugava, so we thought we'd help out and bring some of the books over ourselves. It was a massive group book love fest, where about 30,000 people stood in a line across central Riga in the January cold of minus 12 degrees Celsius, talked to each other and commented on the books they were passing on. And then we have here, Introvert is the New Black. The I Am Introvert campaign, created for the Latvian Literature promotion at the London Book Fair 2018, is both about a national personality trait and a description of an immense richness and depth of the world of imagination. Our writers and poets do us a favour by letting their literary works speak for us. While in his novel, Jelgava 94, the EU Prize for Literature in 2014, Janis Jonevs portrays growing up and searching for one's own identity in 1990s Latvia in a setting of underground culture. Nora Extina speaks of life and death, faith and love in her numerous novels. Inga Abele, in turn, reflects on human nature through metaphors from the natural world. To round things off, a series of comics by Rainis Petersons about the introvert Latvian writer tells you there is nothing to be ashamed of. After all, introvert also applies to the act of reading a book. And these little cartoons are fantastic as well. This is the guy I actually met him, he drew me a fridge magnet. And then I just wanted to round off with this quote here by Vera Vike Freiberger, the ex-president of Latvia, and I believe this was their female president as well, and she said, "It is only by accepting the dignity of every other human being that we develop the true humanity within ourselves. Then we can say, 'You are my brother, as I am your sister,' for we are all children of the same primordial mother. We are all members of one human race." Yes, I think more people need to remember that. So anyway, that was Latvia 100 Snapshot Stories by the Latvian Institute, and its rating time, I'm going to give this a solid, I'm going to give it a 4.5 out of 5. I don't think I can give it a 5 out of 5 just because then everyone's going to want to buy it and it's, you know, not on general sale. I'm sure you can have a look on like eBay and Amazon maybe, or like I say, contact the Latvian Institute. But it's fascinating, great way to get to know the country, and I hope you have enjoyed this video in which I have shared some of my personal highlights. So, as always, thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe if you're new here. Hit that like button if you've enjoyed this video, and I will see you soon in another bookish video. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.